Hi, this is part two of the series. I decided to call it Losing Amelie. I didn't know the name of it the last time I did the recording. Um, so even though technically it's not just about losing Amelie, it's about also gaining our son Grayson. But obviously the main point, the main focus is the loss of my daughter. So yeah, in this video, I'm going to talk about sort of the actual death, how I found her, leading up to that, like the night before, and that's probably it. I'll try and keep these videos to about 8 to 10 minutes. However, I had a go at recording this one already, and it took 20 minutes. I didn't have the mic on, so yeah, we'll see. But I want to get a certain amount of information across, so yeah, expect this one to be a bit longer. So yeah, the leading up to the week. So Amelie died on June 10th. On June 1st, I started a new job, and which was a Friday. And on that Monday, I was away in London training for the new role up until Thursday. So Bex was with Amelie. Bex at the time was heavily pregnant. So 2 days. A day after Amelie passed away, Bex was full-term pregnant, meaning 36 weeks, meaning that it was, the baby could come any time and it's fully grown and it's healthy and healthy size and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, right at the latter stages of her pregnancy, Bex had to, look after Amelie as well as look after herself and the baby. Amelie was at nursery that Monday to Thursday. The Friday I worked from home. And Amelie wasn't at nursery that day, so I got to see a bit of her. I was sort of taking a bit more responsibility than normal because Bex needed a bit of a break. So that night, that Friday night and the Saturday night was that I put her to bed both nights. So focus on the Saturday night, which is the night she passed away. So yeah, we'd had a normal day, and I will talk about the day we had because that was something we were questioned on a lot after Amelie had passed away. So I'll sort of cover that later, but specifically just sort of putting her to bed. So like I said, I took responsibility for it. While Beck sort of rested, we had like a routine, very set routine. Amelie was very good with, she did it, and it was handy. And she'd sort of know if you did it wrong, which was quite funny. So so I'd got her ready for bed. So I'd bathed her, got her ready for bed. She had her pajamas that she'd wear, and she had this little like sleeping suit. So it's like a sleeping bag, but it's got legs in it. So she always had that. She always wanted to go to bed with a blanket and a little duck toy. And sheep toy. So those are the three things that she always wanted. So she had those, and then took her downstairs, got a bottle for her, back upstairs with the bottle while she started drinking it, laid her down in her cot, not like as normal. So she finished her milk. I was trying to get into the habit of her getting used to me walking out of the room, so I sort of walked towards the door and put the empty bottle down, and then walked back towards her cot. The reason that was a factor is because Bex and I hadn't done a particularly good job of sorting out a bedroom in the evening for her going to sleep, where she'd do it solo. So for Amelie to fall asleep, we'd have to have a hand on her or hold her hand and be in there until she completely fell asleep, and then you'd sort of creep out. It's not great for a 19-month-old. But we decided that with the pending arrival of our son, Amelie's little brother, we would wait until he got here, it sort of normalised before we tried to do anything drastic and change that. So for now, we were just sticking with the whole, hopefully see how long we can take to get her to go to sleep. Sometimes it was quick, sometimes it was like 2 hours. It was a pain, but that night it was relatively quick. So what I did, put the bottle down, and then I'd go and lay down next to her cot. She'd obviously be laid in the cot, and she'd put her hand through the bars, or I'd put my hand through the bars, and we'd hold hands, or I'd put my hand on her. But this time it was holding hands, and she wanted both hands. Sometimes it was one, but this time it was both her hands. She wanted to be held. So I was sort of laying there. She quickly went to sleep, probably about, 10 minutes or so later. So, she had a baby monitor, so a camera that was on her at the head of the cot, diagonally facing in, outside the cot but facing into it, so that was on. We were downstairs, me and Bex watching TV. I sort of gloated when I got downstairs because I got her to sleep so quick. I had done the previous night as well. So very normal. The monitor was on. The monitor's video, audio, so you can hear her, and it does temperature as well. Not that we ever pay much attention to that, but it's fine. And you can speak to. There's an intercom function on it as well if you wanted to talk to her. We never use that either. So anyway, so we were watching telly as normal, and I don't know. We went to bed. So there was no stirring. So this was there's a good point timing. So it was around 7 o'clock we put her to bed. So this is probably about 20 past 7. That I went downstairs, and then we watched TV. I don't know, till about 11ish, and decided to go to bed together at the same time. So I went up. I usually peeked in Amelie's room. I don't remember doing that or not that night. I may have done it, but not. No cause for concern if I did. We went into our room, got ready for bed, and took the monitor with us. So the monitor was always on Bex's side of the bed, next to Bex's head, or on her bedside table. And around, it was, I don't know the exact time, but it was near midnight, so it was probably between 11:45 and midnight. Amelie stirred. No cause for concern of it. She just sort of woke up, annoyed that she'd woke up, and then settled herself. We'd sort of have a routine where we'd sort of wait, see if it escalated to the point where we need to go in and see her. We would try and get her to settle herself. So she did that. It took a few minutes. Made a few little whinging noises, but settled herself. Again, no cause for concern. Nothing out of the ordinary. We were quite. I don't know. We'd just sit there and wait and listen for anything escalating or anything out of the ordinary, and we'd go in there if we needed to. So, because Amelie could get quite loud when she was upset, and obviously in the middle of the night, you're always mindful of neighbours and all that sort of stuff. So this night we sort of got off easy, if you like. So she stirred, back to sleep, no problem. And actually that turned out to be the last time we heard her ever. So we went to sleep, and so I can remember waking up. And the timings I don't know exactly, but it was before 7:30 in the morning that I woke up. About 20 past, I think. And that was unusual because Amelie would have us up 6:30 every day, pretty much. So occasionally she'd sleep in. But usually that was because she woke up in the night. It was rare that she'd sleep through. But so we woke up, and we'd had quite an active day the day before. So we just she's asleep. I woke up. Bex was already awake. She was laying there on her phone next to me, and I was like, got a bit of a lie-in. And Bex was like, I said something about that's not going to happen soon, obviously with the arrival of our little boy. I picked up my phone. It hadn't charged. I remember that. I remember looking at it thinking, I didn't plug it in, or it maybe the cable didn't work, but it had really low battery. But I just started looking at it, and as I was lying there, I could hear the monitor, and I couldn't hear anything other than air. I suppose that's the easiest way to describe it. Those that have used baby monitors might understand what I mean by that. It's just this sort of like low hissing sound. Couldn't hear Amelie moving or any sort of stirring or anything typical of that sort of time in the morning. And again, it was about 5 minutes later. I was looking for my phone. I just couldn't get it out of my head. So I said to Bex, turn that up so we could see Amelie, but you couldn't see her face, which was quite lucky. And I will go into detail about what she looked like when I found her. So I'll put in the description, like the times to maybe skip if you don't want to hear about the more graphic stuff. But anyway, so yeah, see on the camera, Amelie's in a cot, lying on. She had a little pillow that she liked for some reason, so she wanted. So we got her a little pillow. So she was laying there in the same position, roughly the same position that I'd left her in. So head near the pillow. She was face down. Her shoulder was actually on the pillow, and then her head was just to the side of it. So she was sort of like tilted a little bit. But no movement. But you couldn't. Again, Bex would always say that she could see movement and breathing. I'm never able to, even now with our son. I have to hear it. Anyway, so I said, we both looked at it, could just see the top of her head and down her back. Normal sleeping position. And said to Bex, turn it up. So she turned it up, and the thing's very close and it's very sensitive. So it's very close to Amelie, and it's very to her head, and it was very sensitive. So that's why we never had it up very high, because we didn't need it. And I was sat there and I was looking at it. I'm pretty sure I had hold of it. Bex maybe have hold of it. I think it was me that had hold of it, and I just sort of knew something was wrong. I didn't say anything. I just got out of bed, walked around the bed, walked out bedroom, down the hallway into Amelie's room, and it's hard to sort of tell, but I can actually remember and picture in my head walking towards and just thinking, this is not good, something was bad. And then when I opened the door, I knew immediately she was dead. So yeah, I opened the door, and the cot's right next to the door, at the foot of the cot, so her head's at the other end, along the wall. The cot's along the wall, and so I could see. So she like I said, she was clothed, but I could see where her pajamas had rolled up a little bit on her legs. I could see a bit of skin on her legs, and the back of her neck, and then some of her arm, her left arm. And her skin was all different colours, and it was like a reddish colour mostly, and then a little bit pale in time. It bits. But this was a very close, initial glance, and I believe that I shouted no a couple of times really loud, and that triggered off Bex, because Bex obviously was waiting. I've never actually asked her this, but what had just happened in the bedroom, she must have known that I thought something was wrong, because I didn't say anything. I just got up and went out. She knew that I was trying to listen to it for Amelie, and I'd gone to see her, and then I just shouted no, and I could hear in the next few seconds, I don't know, a lot happened, so I had to go over and see Amelie, but at the same time Bex was shouting stuff out and trying to get up, and I can remember it was something like, "You've got to be kidding me," or "You're joking," or something like that, is what Bex said, something along those lines. And I could see Amelie's skin, and I just knew something was wrong with her, and then I went towards her and I flipped her over. Oh no, I think I shouted her name first, just hoping that she'd move. Obviously not. And then so she was not. So she was in roughly the same position that I'd put her to bed in. She was more straight when I put her to bed, but she was a slight angle, head more in the corner of the bed, like I said, off the pillow. And she was really long, like stretched out, and the reason for that is because her body had stiffened up and it made her rigid. She looked really long, and I flipped her over, and it was like I was like something out of a horror film. To put it bluntly, it looked like she'd had makeup, like horror makeup put on her, so her eyes were open. They were like glassy and glazed, but yellow-ish, and looking up. The mouth was it was open, but not very much, just a little bit. There's no like contortion in her face, but she had her skin colour, like bits of red and pale, and all around her lips was like there was no colour. It was almost like yellow pale, and then there was a huge, what I suppose looked like a birthmark. That's the only way I can describe it. It's a deep red, big blotchy thing across her forehead and a little bit down here. So it's quite thick at the top here, and then it sort of tapered down. And then I noticed she had those on her arms as well, and I thought, like, I don't know what I thought. I thought what had killed her, or I was pretty sure she was dead. And what I'm going to go on to describe is actually my actions weren't as though she was dead, but in the back of my mind I knew it. But then maybe I tried to save her. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, so it smelled badly in the room. That's another thing. When I opened the door, the smell. Her body was cold, not freezing, not like fridge cold or anything, but like not normal temperature. And her skin was like her arms. Like, so if I touch my arm, I can move, like there's a little bit of give in my skin. There was a little bit, but just, it was like very rigid, very tough. What else? That's what I can think of at the moment. And so like it, that's my initial stuff that I noticed in split seconds of like sort of picking her up and sort of holding her and looking at her. And Bex was at that same time. She'd got out of bed quickly, which she wasn't able to get out of bed quickly. So heavily pregnant women that are very close to giving birth, or at least Bex anyway, I always have to have her sit up in the morning. She'd swing her legs round off the bed. She'd then stand up slowly, hand against the wall, stand up, stretch, and then sort of like waddle wherever she was going. Obviously, with what had happened, that didn't happen. Never the luxury at the time, or the thinking to do it. She jumped out of bed and tried to run to Amelie's bedroom where I was. And whatever, I don't know much about what it was, but maybe her hips, her legs, or whatever. But she fell over. So she initially thought she tripped over something when we talked about it, but it wasn't. She just wasn't ready to walk, and went over, heavily pregnant. And then she got up quickly, and so I was holding Amelie. I had hold of her, and I could see Bex coming down the hallway, and I shouted, like, "Don't look at her." Not that she listened to me, but that's what I remember thinking. I don't want Bex to see. I'm fairly sure I said, call an ambulance, call 999 or whatever. So that's what Bex did. Got on the phone. She was absolutely hysterical. And this was a weird thing, because I said to Bex, when I told this story, I've recounted this a lot of times, which is how I'm sort of able to, I suppose. But when I've retold this story, in my mind, it was at that point I just dropped down and started to try giving Amelie CPR, try to revive her. But I think Bex overheard me telling someone, and she corrected me, and she was right. I was holding on to Amelie. Bex just stood in the doorway of her bedroom, and I said, "What do I do?" And Bex said, "You've got to try. We've got to try," and meaning got to try and help her. So that was when I dropped down, and then I started, I started with chest compressions, and so Bex, meanwhile, was talking, crying, screaming, shouting for help down the phone. I didn't, I was doing these chest compressions, and it was then that I started to really assess what Amelie looked like, and how bad it was. So I can't remember. I think I'm pretty sure that because I think Bex had it on speakerphone, so I could hear quite clearly what the woman was saying, the operator, and she said to do CPR and then to breathe into Amelie's mouth. So when I first did that, I think I don't know if for a 90-month-old you're supposed to, but for babies you're supposed to put your mouth over their mouth and nose, and I didn't. I just put it over Amelie's mouth, and I blew. And what had happened when she passed away, which I found out afterwards. Obviously, I didn't know any of this stuff, but your stomach muscles relax, and what's in the stomach comes into the throat. And I thought she'd puked, and I thought, because it was in her mouth and in her throat, and I thought, oh, she's choked on her own vomit or something. But we didn't hear her vomit, we'd hear her vomit in the night, and because that's happened before, we just bolt it straight in there, and no problem, that didn't happen. It just sort of made its way up as she was laid down and passed away, sort of thing. So I blew, then I realised that her airways were blocked. I blew really hard, and what was blocking her airways, some stuff that was blocking her airways, came out of her nose and hit my face and went down right by her shoulder, on her shoulder, and then on the carpet by her shoulder. It's like an orangey colour, yellowy orange colour, and it's fucking, sorry, I swear, but it smelled really bad. Obviously not like I cared. And then I realised I had to get the stuff out of her mouth, so I put my finger in her mouth and tried to loop. It was liquid though, so it didn't really work, but tried to get it out. And I remember her jaw was solid, not solid closed, there was a little gap, a very small gap in between her teeth, and I shoved my finger through, and it was that tight that her teeth scratched my finger, the tip of my finger, under my, from the bottom of my nail down. And so I put it in, and hit the back of her mouth, her throat, and sort of tried to loop out anything. There wasn't really much there. But yeah, I had this scratch on my finger for a few days, red. It was bright red, and I was like, I don't know, that was sort of, I don't know, part of it, or I just kept looking at that, thinking, fucking, what's happened here? That's from her mouth, Anyway, so started breathing into her mouth, and actually things started happening. So as I was breathing into her, you could hear her airways working, and this liquid cleared. It must have gone down into her stomach. I don't really know. I don't know if it went into her lungs or not. I don't know. I know it wasn't there anymore. And then I do the compressions, and then I breathe, and then I do the compressions, and it was it was functioning, but so that was encouraging to me. And then this big blotchy thing on her head was going away and fading away, and I thought, oh, she's getting her colour back, and everything's working, and she's gonna be okay, or I don't know. And then, God, you know what, this just comes to me. I remember saying this. I remember thinking this was, well, if I bring her back now, she's been dead, and what if she's now brain damaged? And I genuinely remember thinking that, but it didn't stop me, fucking, of course it didn't, but that's what happened. What I learned was that all of these signs, all of the things that were happening, were what I was doing. So I was breathing into her. That was, everything was functioning because of my actions, not because of anything that she was doing. But I didn't know that at the time, so I was encouraged by all of this. And the fading of the blotch, what these blotches were again, this was weeks later we found out this, but that it's capillary blood, so the blood that's in your skin goes to the lowest point of gravity. So where she was lying on her head, and her head was touching the mattress and her arm was touching the mattress, that's where these blotches were. So when I turned her over, they faded back away, and that was just the blood draining away. I'm just going to pause for a sec. Sorry about that. I saw messages on my phone, Bex, and she's upstairs with Grace, and I just wanted to check it was all right. Anyway, so Bex, while she was on the phone to the operator, she ran downstairs, or went downstairs, opened the door, came back upstairs, and then it was just the case of that, she was on speaker, the operator, and I told her I could hear her, and she was then talking to me, telling me what to do, and it was just the same thing over and over again. And Bex was, I remember Bex saying she thought it was she said, I think it's meningitis, I'm not sure what it is. Like she's, that was right early in the call. But yeah, like, we didn't know what was going on, or, why Amelie was dead at the time. We didn't find out for a while, actually. So I was doing CPR, and apparently it was 8 minutes. So Bex knows this because she hung up the phone when they arrived, and she had the record of a phone call. But 8 minutes after Bex called, we had the paramedics turn up, and 3 turned up at the same time. So there was an ambulance, a full-size ambulance outside our house. I couldn't see it, but when I went outside I saw it. Full-size ambulance, and then there was like a smaller, like an estate car that was a paramedics car. So I think 1 turned up in that and 2 turned up in the other one. I assume. I don't know. Never asked them. But anyway, these three guys came. One young guy, 1 young woman. I would say in their mid-20s, and then an older guy who was probably late 40s, maybe. I don't know. But then I must admit I didn't really assess too much. But yeah, that was like the crew that turned up, and I remember like they came in and they said like they called out and were like, come up, and they came upstairs, and I was so relieved that I could step back and someone else that knew what they were doing was going to come in, so I just stood back and like sort of lifted my arms up, and I was like, just to help her sort of thing. So the young guy came around Amelie's body, knelt down where I was. Bex then like moved out of the way. I think she stood up, I can't really remember, and the woman knelt down the other side of Amelie, and then the older guy came and stood near me and was asking me questions, and I can't really remember that at that point what he was asking about, but related to, asking about I don't know, but within seconds, so the guy had this big like mouth thing that went over Amelie's mouth, and with a balloon sort of looking thing that he was squeezing, it did like twice, and then he picked Amelie up and he ran downstairs and out to the ambulance. And I remember thinking, like, that encouraged me. I was like, he knows there's something there, like there's something that's in the ambulance that he knows is going to help Amelie. And so like I was like, like a little bit more hope restored. And the ambulance, the other guy, the head ambulance guy, if you like, he said to us, right, you need to get dressed, because I was just in my underwear, just woke up. Bex was in just like a nighty thing or whatever. He said, you guys need to get dressed because we're going to the hospital. I was like, okay, I don't care, I don't really want to get dressed. But anyway, so me and Bex were like immediately going back to our bedroom to go and get some clothes. And I said to her, like, I remember saying to her, I don't need clothes, and she was like, you do, you need to get dressed. I was like, all right. So I chucked on some tracksuit bottoms. I didn't put on a t-shirt, I just put on a hoodie. So I had a hoodie on just with nothing underneath it, which was a stupid idea. Well, it was what I did because I just wanted to quickly go. And then didn't have any shoes or socks on, went straight downstairs and outside. And like I said, the ambulance was directly outside our house. The back door of it was open, I couldn't see that, but the side door was open, that was facing our house. So I went in, and there was a little chair there, a little seat there, and I sat on that seat, and that's when I saw the back door was open. And so the young guy and the younger girl, woman, were working. So Amelie was laying on this, I don't know, bed thing. I don't know what they call them, in the ambulance, and they're like cutting her clothes off, and doing stuff. And the woman then turned to me. She said, "It's too late. Like, she's been gone for too long." And sort of confirmed that she was, dead at that point. And so I was like, I just sort of slumped a little bit. Bex was coming out of the house. Obviously, she was a bit slower than me, so she was coming out of the house, and Bex's mum is a nurse, so used to dealing with like medical things with Bex, and Bex called her mum, was in hysterics, and was like shouting that Amelie was dead, and her mum was confused because she thought she meant the baby, not Amelie. She thought something had happened with the pregnancy, and anyway, so she was like outside the ambulance, like screaming. The other guy's trying to sort of calm her down and help her, and I got out of the ambulance, and the guy turned to me and he was like, "Right, you need to go." A police woman turned up. Her name was Poppy. She turned up in a police car, and she was like, she was there to assist, and she said, "You'll come with me, and then they'll we'll follow the ambulance to the hospital." And I then turned around to the paramedic. I was like, "They just told me Amelie's dead," and he's like, "No. It doesn't matter. We're going to keep working on her." So he said to go and get shoes for you, go and get shoes for Bex. I don't know if he called her that, but he asked me to, and so I went inside and grabbed some shoes. And then when I walked out, Bex was walking down the road towards the police car with the policewoman, and they were holding hands. And I sort of quickly hurried up and gave Bex her shoes, and then the paramedic came along, the main guy, and sort of said, "I need you to come with me to Bex because I'm worried about you. Like, obviously she's just like going through this really traumatic experience, very heavily pregnant." He said, "I need to keep an eye on you, so you come with me in the front of the ambulance." And then I had to follow in the police car. So I'm going to end that there. That's a 30-minute video. I've tried to be as open as I can and remember as much as I can, but if you do have any questions or comments or thoughts about any of it, then share it, ask. I'll do my best to either answer in text or answer in the next video. I'm not really sure how to do it, but we'll see. But so the next video, what I'll talk about is that ride in the ambulance, and then what happened when we got to the hospital. Thanks very much.